My name is Mama Grace, and this is not an easy story for me to tell. Sometimes I ask myself how a mother's love can turn into her deepest pain. I never imagined my only daughter, Amara, would one day look at me with disgust. The same child I carried on my back when life itself had given up on me. I was only 26 when I lost my husband. He died of a strange illness that drained everything we had. People said it was spiritual, others said it was stress. All I know is that one day I was a wife, and the next I was a widow with a crying baby in my arms and no food in the house. From that day, my life became a battle between hunger and hope. I started selling vegetables at the market in Suka, waking up before dawn to catch the early buyers. I tied Amara on my back with a faded wrapper, rain or shine. When other women laughed at me, saying, "Grace, go and remarry," I only smiled and said, "My child is my future." I meant every word. I wanted her to go to school, to speak English better than me, to sit in offices I could never enter. Sometimes we had just one meal a day. I would pretend I wasn't hungry, telling her I had already eaten at the market. But the truth is, I watched her eat so that she wouldn't cry. I still remember her little hands feeding me back, saying, "Mama, take small." That memory alone kept me alive through the hardest days. When she turned 10, I sold my only piece of gold, my wedding earrings, just to pay her school fees. I told myself, education will wipe away our tears one day. And when she got admission to University of Lagos, I danced barefoot in the compound, praising God as if I had won a lottery. People from the village came to congratulate me. They said, "Mama Grace, your daughter will change your story." I believed them with my whole heart. I still remember the day she left for school. I packed her box myself, ironed her clothes till midnight, and added a Bible on top. I hugged her tight and whispered, "Don't forget where you came from." She smiled and said, "I'll make you proud, Mama." Those words replay in my head till this day. For the first few months, she called often. We would talk for hours. She told me about her new friends, her lecturers, and life in Lagos. But slowly, her tone changed. Her calls became shorter. Sometimes she ignored mine completely. I told myself she was just busy with school. I didn't know that the distance between us was no longer in miles. It was in her heart. That was the beginning of the silence that swallowed my daughter, and the beginning of the pain that would one day break me completely. At first, I didn't notice the change in Amara. It started like a whisper, a small shift in her voice whenever we spoke. She stopped calling me Mom and Kim the way she used to. Instead, she said a simple hello, like I was one of her church members. Whenever I asked about school, she would rush through her answers, saying, "Mama, I'm busy, I'll call you later." But that later never came. I told myself, she's in Lagos now, she must be adapting to city life. Lagos, they say, can change even a saint. But I didn't know Lagos had already taken my daughter's heart and washed it with pride. One December, she came home for Christmas. I waited at the park for hours, wearing my best wrapper and holding a basket of roasted groundnuts I had kept for her. When she arrived, I ran to hug her, but she stepped back slightly and said, "Mama, please, people are looking." That moment cut deep. My arms hung in the air like a forgotten promise. She had changed. New accent, new clothes, even the way she walked was different. She looked beautiful, yes, but there was something cold in her eyes. During meals, she refused to eat from my plate, saying, "Mama, I'm watching my diet." Even when I made her favorite soup, egusi with plenty of stockfish, she barely touched it. That night, I overheard her on the phone. She was speaking to someone and said, "My mom is trying, but she's still very local." My chest tightened. The same woman who bathed you under the rain is now local? I couldn't sleep that night. I cried quietly so she wouldn't hear. When she returned to Lagos after the holiday, I prayed endlessly for her. I begged God to remind her of who she was, the little girl who used to sing for me while I sold tomatoes in the market. But the calls became fewer, and her visits stopped completely. A few months later, her friend, Ngozi, came to the village and told me Amara had moved to a new apartment on the island. She said Amara rarely mentioned me anymore, and when people asked about her parents, she simply said, "They're from the East, but I don't really stay in touch." Those words felt like knives. I had never felt so invisible in my own daughter's story. I remember sitting outside that evening, looking at the sky, whispering, "God, is this the child I carried on my back?" Still, I refused to give up. I kept calling, even when she didn't answer. I sent prayers and blessings through text messages, even when she never replied. A mother's love doesn't expire. It just learns to live quietly in pain. But I didn't know that the worst was yet to come. Because one Sunday morning, when I decided to surprise her in Lagos, I walked straight into the kind of humiliation that no mother should ever experience in this lifetime. That Sunday morning still burns in my memory like hot charcoal. I woke up before dawn, filled with excitement and fear at the same time. After months of not hearing from Amara, I decided to visit her in Lagos without telling her. I wanted to see her face, hold her hands, and remind her that no matter how far she went, she still had a mother who prayed for her every day. I borrowed money from Mama Uche, my neighbor, to pay for transport. I wrapped my best Ankara wrapper, the one with bright red flowers she bought for me years ago when she got her first internship pay. I packed some smoked fish, palm oil, and dried pepper, things I thought she might miss from the village. In my heart, I was a proud mother going to bless her child's home. When I reached Lekki Phase 1, I almost turned back. The houses were tall, beautiful, and guarded by men in black uniforms. I asked one of the security men if I could see Madam Amara Chukwu. He looked me up and down before calling inside. After a few minutes, he said, "Madam say she no dey expect visitor." I told him, "Please, tell her it's her mother." The man's face changed slightly. He called again. Then he said, "She say make you wait small." I waited for almost an hour under the sun. Finally, the gate opened, and there she was, my daughter. She looked even more beautiful than before, dressed in fine clothes with her hair neatly done. But when her eyes met mine, I saw embarrassment, not joy. I smiled and said, "Amara, my kin, I came to see you." But she didn't hug me. She looked around nervously, as if ashamed. Her husband came out a few minutes later, a tall, handsome man. I smiled at him and said, "Good afternoon, my son." Before he could reply, Amara said, "Honey, this is someone from my village." Those words shattered something inside me. Someone from my village? I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I said softly, "Amara, it's me, your mother." Her husband looked confused. "Your mother?" he asked. Then it happened, words I will never forget till my last breath. Amara shouted, "This woman is not my mother. She's a witch. She came to bring bad luck into our home." My legs went weak. My ears started ringing. I stood there holding my bag of fish and pepper, watching my only child call me a witch in front of strangers, in front of her husband. The security guard moved closer, as if to escort me out. My mouth trembled, but no words came. Tears rolled down my face as I whispered, "Amara, you've killed me." I turned and walked away slowly, my shadow stretching behind me like sorrow itself. People on the street stared, but I didn't care. Every step I took felt like my heart was being buried deeper into the ground. That was the day my spirit broke. I didn't know if I was still a mother or just a ghost that love had forgotten. For weeks after that day, I could not eat or sleep. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw Amara's face, the anger, the shame, the way she called me a witch as if I were a stranger. I would wake up at night crying into my pillow, asking God what sin I had committed for my only child to reject me so cruelly. The news spread quickly in the village. Some people came to comfort me, but others whispered behind my back, saying, "Maybe her daughter is right. Maybe she truly did something." Those words pierced my soul even deeper. I stopped going to the market. I stopped attending church. I felt like my life had lost meaning. But one morning, as I sat outside my small hut watching the sunrise, something inside me changed. I heard a quiet voice in my heart say, "Grace, stop crying. You are still a mother." I realized that I could not continue to live in pain. If my daughter had chosen to forget me, I would remind her who I truly was, not with anger, but with love. I went into my small wooden box and brought out the few things that still connected me to my past. My old wedding photograph where I was smiling beside my late husband, a tiny golden locket he had given me on our wedding night with our initials engraved inside, and a small torn picture of Amara as a child, sitting on my lap laughing with her missing front teeth. I decided to prepare a gift for her, not a curse, not a confrontation, but something that would speak when my voice could no longer reach her. I sold my last piece of land, the small one beside the stream that my husband and I had kept for Amara's future. When people asked why, I simply said, "I am investing in peace." With that money, I bought a fine wooden box from a craftsman in town. Inside, I placed the locket, the 2 photographs, and a handwritten letter. In the letter, I wrote, "My dear daughter, if this box finds you, know that I have forgiven you. I am not a witch. I am a mother who prayed for you every day since you were born. This locket carries my love. This picture carries our joy. And these tears on this letter carry my pain. When you remember me, remember that I gave everything I had, even when you gave me nothing in return. Mama." When I finished writing, I cried for a long time, but this time they were not tears of pain. They were tears of release. I found a driver going to Lagos and gave him the box with Amara's address. I didn't write my name on it. I told him, "If she asks, just say it came from someone who loves her." As I watched him drive away, I felt a strange peace settle in my heart. For the first time in months, I slept without crying. I didn't know if she would ever open that box, but I knew that when she did, my love would finally speak louder than her pride. Months passed after I sent the box, and life returned to its slow rhythm. I no longer waited for Amara's calls. Neither did I ask anyone about her. I focused on surviving one day at a time. I went back to farming, planting cassava and vegetables, just to keep my hands busy and my heart from thinking too much. Sometimes I would see mothers walking with their grown daughters in the market, laughing and chatting, and I would quietly look away before tears could betray me. One afternoon, about 8 months later, I saw a car stop in front of my compound. It wasn't a fancy one like those Lagos cars, but it was neat and new. A young man stepped out and greeted me respectfully. He said he had a message from Lagos, from Amara. My heart started to race. I hadn't heard that name spoken kindly in months. He handed me an envelope and left before I could even ask questions. Inside the envelope was a short letter, written in shaky handwriting. "Mama, I am sorry." That was all it said. No explanations, no address, just those 4 words. I pressed the paper to my chest and cried. I didn't know what had happened, but I could feel something in my spirit. Something had broken on her end, too. A few weeks later, I heard from a trader who had just returned from Lagos. She told me that Amara's husband had lost his job and their business had collapsed. She said they had been struggling to pay rent and many of their friends had abandoned them. I felt pain, but not joy. I didn't wish her suffering. I only wished for her understanding. Later that same year, around Christmas, I received a phone call from an unknown number. The voice on the line was weak, trembling. It was Amara. She couldn't even speak properly through her tears. She said, "Mama, I found the box." I went silent. My hands shook as I held the phone. She continued, "I opened it yesterday. Mama, I saw the pictures. I saw the letter. I didn't know you sold your land. I didn't know how much I hurt you. Please forgive me." She told me that after losing everything, she had been going through depression. She said one day while packing her things, she found the box inside her wardrobe, untouched, exactly how the driver had delivered it months ago. She said when she opened it and read my letter, something in her spirit broke completely. That night she couldn't sleep. She said she saw my face in her dreams, holding her the way I used to when she was small. She woke up crying and promised herself she would come home. I didn't know what to say. My heart was too full to speak. I only whispered, "Come home, my child." When the call ended, I sat in silence for a long time. For the first time in years, I felt a small light return to my heart, fragile but real. I didn't know when she would come or if she really would, but deep down, I knew that the God who watches a mother's tears had finally started his work. It was a quiet Friday morning when I heard the sound of a car stopping outside my compound again. This time, my heart began to beat fast, but I didn't move. I stayed seated under the mango tree, peeling cassava, pretending not to notice. Something in me whispered, "She has come." I heard footsteps approaching, slow and uncertain. Then I heard her voice, soft, trembling, the same voice that once called me a witch. "Mama, it's me." I froze. My knife fell from my hand. I turned around slowly, and there she was, Amara, standing by the gate, looking nothing like the proud woman I had seen in Lekki. She was thinner, her eyes swollen as if she had cried for days. She wore a simple dress and slippers. There was no makeup, no perfume, no pride. Just my daughter, broken and real. Before I could say anything, she dropped to her knees and began to weep. "Mama, please forgive me," she cried. "I didn't know what I was doing. I let people fill my heart with lies. I forgot where I came from. I forgot you." Her tears poured freely, mixing with the red dust on the ground. I wanted to speak, but my mouth couldn't move. My own tears blurred my sight. Then I bent down, lifted her up, and held her tight against my chest. For the first time in years, I felt her heartbeat against mine. "Amara," I whispered, "a mother never stops loving her child. Even when you threw stones at my heart, I still prayed for your peace." We stood there crying like two lost souls who finally found each other again. The neighbors who heard the noise came out quietly, watching from afar, some of them wiping their own eyes. Amara stayed with me for 3 days. She cooked, swept the compound, and even followed me to the market. At night, we sat outside and talked for hours, not as mother and daughter divided by shame, but as two women who had survived pain. She told me how pride destroyed her home, how her husband had left after their losses, and how she had realized that the only person who never stopped caring was the same woman she once called a witch. On the 3rd day, she brought out the golden locket I had sent in the box. She opened it and said, "I wear this every day now, Mama. It reminds me that your love is stronger than any lie." I smiled, touched her face gently, and said, "My daughter, may you never forget where love comes from. It's not in riches or titles. It's in the hands that raised you." As the sun set that evening, I watched her sitting by the doorway, helping me peel cassava, humming the same song she used to sing as a child. And in that moment, I realized that forgiveness is not weakness, it is healing. So, to every mother listening to my story, I say this: no matter how far your child strays, never stop praying. Love can travel where words cannot. If you believe in the power of a mother's love, subscribe to this channel and share this story. Someone out there needs to hear it.